Hi there, my name is Sam Klaus, and I am the Youth Outreach Coordinator and Addictions Counselor with JACS. I'm here to talk to you about addiction, substance use, mental health, and to tell you more about the organization. So what's JACS? JACS stands for Jewish Addiction Community Services. Now, we started within the Jewish community over 20 years ago, but we help anyone regardless of religious or cultural background. We don't ask, and it's not a requirement of services, so you don't have to be Jewish to use our services. So we help anyone who's impacted or affected by addiction, including the individual struggling, their family and friends, and other loved ones of the individual. We have many different services at JACS, including counseling, such as one-on-one or with family members. We have outreach, such as me talking to you guys. I also go into schools when they're on. And groups. We have a number of groups at JACS, including groups for teens or young adults. We have groups for people who are affected by addiction. We also have groups for loved ones of people who are affected by addiction, and many more. So what can be addictive? There are a number of things that can be addictive, including drugs such as pills, marijuana, and others. Alcohol, technology, including social media, video games, shopping, pornography, sex, and many more, including gambling or eating, can also be addictive. And why would someone engage in addictive behaviors? It's a number of reasons, and when I say addictive behaviors, I mean everything I mentioned before. I'm probably going to use the example of drugs or alcohol just because that's the first thing that comes to mind. Now, I want to clarify also that I'm not assuming that the people I'm speaking to, you guys, are doing drugs or alcohol or any other addictive behaviors. This is more of just an information session. I'm just trying to spread awareness and education about addictive behaviors. So, why would someone engage in addictive behaviors? The first reason is actually for curiosity. You see it on the news, you see it on TV, you hear about it, you're curious. Another reason is for pure influence and modeling. So they might see people that they look up to using, such as their parents or their family members or friends. Also for fun or for a good time. To avoid difficult emotions, most people don't like feeling lonely or heartbroken or sad, so they'll engage in addictive behaviors to cover up those feelings. For stress, whether they have a big assignment at school or their family's going through a hard time or their friends are going through a difficult time. Mental health, such as anxiety and depression, which I'll get into later on. Coping with loss, such as the death of a family member, a pet, a friend, someone you know. This could also be the loss of a relationship or a friendship. To cover up low self-esteem or confidence, oftentimes if we're feeling not very confident, we'll go on Instagram and get lots of likes. That might boost our confidence a little bit. And also trying to overcome social anxiety. Now, this is different from regular anxiety, which is why I put it in a separate category. And social anxiety is basically when somebody feels anxious about a social situation. Now, we probably aren't going to be experiencing many social situations right now, but if you're thinking about going to a party or going to school, this could make some people feel anxious, and that's what social anxiety is. So I want to talk next about the continuum of substance use. Now, this is basically the way in which addiction goes from start to finish, and this is not linear. It's totally fluid. People might start at the beginning, go somewhere in the middle, go back to the beginning phases. It's however it goes for the individual. So the first couple of stages are experimental use and social use, and this is usually where people will stop. Most people will stay around this area. There's also a column before these two, which is no use, which is where people don't engage at all with addictive behaviors. They don't ever even try it. The next stage is where you might start seeing addiction, which is overuse and misuse. There's also abuse and dependency. So experimental use is when trying because you're curious or you see someone else use. You're unsure how you feel about substances, and this is the stage where someone will start to decide how they feel about substance use. The next stage is social use, which is heavily motivated by peer pressure or peer influence. Normally it's kept to the weekends with friends, at parties, or on special occasions, and many people will say that they just use for fun. So the next stage is overuse or misuse, which is the I love it stage. Here, the person is still in control and they have little to no consequences in life. So they're still going to school, they still have good grades, they still have a good relationship with their friends or family. This is also the stage where solitary use may start. Now, this solitary use means using alone. And this can be really dangerous because if the person hurts themselves or if they overdose, there's no one there to call 911. Also, if the person is, for example, drunk or high and they fall asleep, if they vomit in their sleep, they can choke on their vomit and they could die. if there's nobody around to roll them over or to help them or to call 911 if something bad happens. It can be really dangerous. Also, in this stage, they might start seeing ritual use, and that's basically putting a pattern or a ritual to their use. So, this could mean, I like to use this particular bong, or this is the person I like to buy from, or I'm going to smoke at this time every single day. That's what ritual use is. So, the next stage is abuse, which they start experiencing negative consequences. For example, their grades start to drop, they start to get in a lot of fights with their family, they're losing some of their friends. Here, there's an increased tolerance and more frequent use. So, tolerance is where you find that they might need to smoke more or take more of whatever the substance is in order to feel the same high. So, say that I smoke 1 gram of marijuana every day, I might find that after a week or so, I might need to smoke even more to get the same high as before. And that could mean more frequent use. Also, they might start using other substances. Say, for example, I usually smoke marijuana, but it's not really doing it for me anymore. I'm not getting the same high. I might move on to cocaine. They also start to lose control over the substances. They may not want to use as often as they do, but they just can't help it. And here they start entering the I need it stage. So this stage is dependency, where they start to develop physical or psychological dependency and may show signs of withdrawal. So dependency, like I said before, is when I need it. I find that, I smoke every night before bed, and then eventually I find that I can't sleep without smoking a bowl. Withdrawal can also be extremely dangerous depending on the amount of substance use or what the substance actually is. Now, withdrawal can mean a number of things. It could be as simple as, if I don't have a coffee every morning when I wake up, I'm going to spend the whole day nauseous and with the shakes just from not having the substance. This could be a lot more dangerous, for example, with alcohol, because withdrawal could be seizures, it could be death, it could be extremely dangerous. In this stage, they might also find that they're having negative consequences in life because of their drug use. For example, they're just getting terrible grades in school, their family is not happy with them anymore, they have a terrible relationship with their family. Also, in this stage, they find that they're really only hanging out with their using friends, and using friends means that they use with those friends the substances, and also they use those friends to get the substance, and those friends use them to also get the substance. Here also, like I said before, a high tolerance is built. So they find that they need the substance more and they need more and more of it. So substance use and mental health, I think, is extremely important to talk about just because mental health is so prominent in your lives and in my life and in the lives of everyone around us. I think it's really important to talk about. So mental health issues can appear early on in childhood or in adolescence or even in later adulthood. They can pretty much appear anytime. Many people begin to experience a mental health concern without really understanding what they're experiencing. Now, substance use can worsen or even trigger pre-existing mental health issues, and the use of substances often masks the symptoms of mental health issues while providing temporary relief from their symptoms. So, for example, if I feel a little bit anxious, I might think, okay, if I smoke a little bit of marijuana, my anxiety will go away. But that's not true. What really just happens is that for the time that I'm high, I don't feel as anxious. But once the high wears off, I'm still equally as anxious as I was before. The anxiety is still there. All the substance is doing is masking the symptoms. So, like I said here, the use of drugs or alcohol leaves the underlying mental illness undiagnosed and untreated. So, they're really not treating or diagnosing or really helping their mental health issue. They're just covering it for now, but their mental health issue can still get worse. So, a concurrent disorder is when someone's diagnosed with a substance use and mental health problem. So, I'd like to talk about depression because it's one of the major mental health issues that people your age are going through, and it's very common. So, depression is a common and serious illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. And depression is different than just being sad. Because sadness, it can go away, it can come and go, whereas depression is more serious and it's more of a mood. So here I'm going to list a number of symptoms. If someone finds that they're experiencing some of these symptoms or all of them or a mixture of them, they may be experiencing some form of depression. So symptoms include feeling sad or having a depressed mood, loss of interest or pleasure in activities they once enjoyed, changes in appetite, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, decreased energy and increased fatigue, feeling worthless or guilty, difficulty thinking and concentrating and making decisions, and thoughts of death or suicide. So anxiety is another really, really common mental illness that so many people in the world, not just people your age, are experiencing. So anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. So some levels of anxiety are normal. Say you are going to do a public speaking presentation and you're feeling really anxious and nervous and stressed. Totally normal. Or there's an event coming up that you've been waiting for a long time. That's totally normal to feel some levels of anxiety. However, anxieties become problematic when your body reacts as if there's danger when there's no real danger. So, for example, you're sitting at home watching Friends on Netflix and you suddenly start feeling really anxious. Your heart is pounding, you get dizzy, you get nauseous, and you don't know why because the anxiety is not relative to the situation that you're in. That's when it might become problematic. So it's important to identify and recognize your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors when experiencing anxiety because that way you can get help. It's really important to say, this anxiety that I'm feeling doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel right. That's when you think, okay, maybe it's time I should get some help. I should reach out for support. So here I'm going to put up a crisis hotline number. So if you or someone else you know is having thoughts of suicide or is in crisis, or if you just feel like talking, call this number or text that number. Everything is totally anonymous. You can just reach out and they'll text you back and it's no problem because why not? So how to cope? There are so many ways to cope with mental health issues when you're experiencing them, and so many people are experiencing them. So I'm going to put up a list of a number of things that you can do. I'm going to explain them too. So mindfulness is a really important one. The word is thrown around all the time. It could be with mindful meditation, but what it really means is just understanding what's going on in your body, acknowledging what's going on in your body. If you start to feel nauseous, if your heart is pounding, it's important to think, okay, why am I feeling anxious right now? Why am I feeling my body doing these things right now? To be mindful of what's going on in your mind so that you can get help for them. So deep breathing relaxation, like a meditation, can be really helpful to just breathe, to ground yourself. Progressive muscle relaxation is a really good one that they do in a lot of yoga classes, which is really helpful for grounding yourself. So what you do is you literally take a deep breath and then you go through one body part at a time, strengthening it and then letting it go, and make it stiff and let it go. Every body part from your head to your toes, one at a time. And by the time you're done that, you're grounded, you're not thinking about the anxiety that you're feeling, and you've been able to just breathe for a little bit. Another one is exercise. Get the hormones flowing, get the chemicals going in your body. It can make you feel really good. Laugh. Go on Instagram, go on TikTok. There are so many memes out there that'll make you laugh. Do a fun activity. Do something that you enjoy. Take your dog for a walk. Take someone else's dog for a walk. Do something that'll make you happy. So moving forward, there are some things that are really important to remember. For example, most people with mental health problems can live productive and positive lives. So mental illness does not respect any boundaries of race, class, or geography. So no matter where you are, where you come from, where you live in society, mental illness does not respect that. Many people have a family member or friend who has or has had a mental disorder. So if you think about your family, if it's not you who has some kind of mental illness, somebody you love does. So mental health can be treated. There are so many ways to treat mental health. And ultimately, what's the most important thing to remember is you are not alone. There are so many people out there who are experiencing what you're feeling. So reach out, talk to someone, talk to your friends, talk to your family members, talk to your teacher, talk to somebody who will listen, who can tell you that you're not alone. So I want to talk a little bit about marijuana. We're going to do a true or false. You can think it in your head, you can say it out loud, do whatever. First, there are so many perceptions or opinions about marijuana. Some of them are, oh my gosh, it's so great, I love it, helps me relax, helps me feel good. Others are, oh my gosh, it's horrible, I'll never touch this stuff. Some of them are, oh, it's great for medicinal use. There are so many opinions. They're all totally valid. So the first one that we're going to talk about, marijuana is not addictive, true or false? This is false. Marijuana is addictive. Anything, any substance, anything in life that you can experience withdrawal from if you stop doing it can be addictive. So if a person smokes every day for a week and then suddenly goes cold turkey on the last day, they're going to experience withdrawal symptoms. This could be shakiness, this could be flu-like symptoms, this could be anything. But they will experience withdrawal symptoms, which means that marijuana is addictive. The next one, marijuana is a natural plant, so it's harmless to use, true or false. This is both true and false. It is a natural plant, so it's harmless to use if you're picking it out of the ground and smoking it right away. If you're not adding to it or mixing it with anything or anything like that. However, none of you are of the age to go to one of the government grow-ups or any of the places that are selling this stuff legally, which means that none of you are getting it from those places. So if you're getting it from a friend, or if you're buying it from an older sibling who's getting it from a friend, or wherever you're getting it from, you just need to be careful. I'm not saying don't do it, whatever. I'm just saying you need to be careful, because a lot of the time people who are selling this stuff, who are selling drugs of any kind, are putting it together on the same table as they are with other drugs. So for example, they might have on the table marijuana and coke and fentanyl on their table, and they're mixing it all together, and some of it's going to get into your marijuana. So what I'm saying is be careful, because if some of you might know about the fentanyl crisis of a couple of years ago that was in Toronto, fentanyl is still around, and basically what fentanyl is it's a drug that's 100 times more potent than morphine, which means it's 100 times stronger than morphine. Now this, I have my little thing here, there's heroin, there's fentanyl, and there's carfentanil. So just a few little salts, grains, that's not actually salt, but they resemble grains of salt, just a few of those of fentanyl can kill a human being. Doesn't matter how big or tall or how much you weigh you are. Doesn't matter. It can kill a human being. Now, carfentanil, which is even more potent than regular fentanyl, you see in the picture, 1 grain of salt of carfentanil can kill a person just by touching it. So if I stuck my finger in that vial and touched that grain, I could die. And that's incredibly dangerous, and you don't know if that's in the marijuana you're smoking, if it's mixed in there. So a person could use naloxone or naltrexone, which is basically the antidote-ish for fentanyl, but it doesn't actually cure you. So if somebody overdoses, this is why people were literally dropping on the street in Toronto a couple of years ago, because they were smoking marijuana that had some sense of fentanyl in it, and they were dying. And it's incredibly dangerous. So like I said before, yes, marijuana is a natural plant. So smoking the natural plant is harmless. Eating whatever with the natural plant, sure. But you need to be careful of what's actually in the marijuana that you may be smoking. So another one, marijuana can create brain abnormalities, true or false? This is true. Everyone that I'm speaking to right now who's listening to me, you are under the age of 25, except for your teacher. You are under the age of 25, which means that your brains are still developing. Now, this means that marijuana can have an effect on your brain and can create brain abnormalities. It's actually been shown to lessen the IQ of people who are over 25 whose brains have actually already developed. So, as you guys probably know, marijuana releases dopamine in the brain, and dopamine is basically the happy chemical in your brain. It makes you feel like you're super happy. Oh, my problems are gone. This is wonderful. I'm in the sense of euphoria. And that's why it feels like your depression and anxiety is totally gone, because you feel amazing. However, like I said before, it doesn't actually make your depression and anxiety go away. It just feels like that. Smoking marijuana can also create greater appetite and thirst, which can increase your weight. It can create memory problems, impaired judgment, delayed reactions. Depending on how much you smoke and what kind, it can create paranoia and hallucinations. And like I said before, it can create withdrawal and addiction. So, should I drive high? Yes or no? The answer is absolutely not. There's always one person who says, well, I can drive high. Yes, you can drive high. You should not. It's incredibly dangerous. It's the same as driving drunk. Under the influence of any kind is not tolerable. It's not okay. Like I said before, you have delayed reaction times when you're high. You have memory problems. You have impaired judgment. So you guys are probably all around the age where you're thinking about getting your G1 or your G2 or any kind of license. If the car in front of you presses on their brakes, you need to press on your brakes too. But if your reaction time is delayed or your judgment is impaired, what happens if you press the brakes too late? It can be incredibly dangerous. Think about your little sibling getting in the car with someone who's driving high, or your little cousin. You don't want that. They say that 1 in 5 fatal car accidents where somebody died in Canada were because somebody was driving high. You don't want to be that person. Next, we're going to talk about vaping. There are a number of facts that I find that a lot of people don't know, so we're going to learn about them. So the earliest e-cigarette dates back to 1963, when a patent application described the device as a smokeless non-tobacco cigarette. So vaping was originally intended as a smoking aid to help people reduce or quit smoking cigarettes. Now, it contains varying levels of nicotine, other flavoring chemicals, which leads to the fun flavors like confetti or cotton candy or strawberry. Vaping and e-cigs have recently become very popular amongst youth as young as grade 7. And I had a student who told me that their little sibling who's in grade 5 smokes vaping consistently, and that kid is 10 years old. And there's a perception that vaping is less harmful than smoking cigarettes. Now, this is only true if you smoke cigarettes. So if a person smokes cigarettes, then yes, vaping is less harmful, not healthy, but less harmful because you can reduce the amount of nicotine in a vape. So it can help you wean off nicotine, and then eventually you can wean off the vape and not smoke anything altogether. But if you don't smoke cigarettes, vaping is just as harmful for your body than smoking cigarettes. So what's in a vape pen? I know you guys know all kinds of stuff that are in a vape pen, like the fun chemicals or marijuana, stuff like that. But let's talk about the actual liquids and chemicals. So the two main ones are vegetable glycerin and propylene glycol. Now these are in all kinds of stuff that's in your house, in your pantry, like fun baked goods. They're in lollipops, they're in candies, they're also in deodorant, they're also in foundation and makeup. They're in all kinds of stuff. Also, diacetyl, which is less common now because diacetyl is the main chemical in the fun flavorings like confetti and cotton candy and all those, which are becoming banned in Canada, I believe. They've already been banned in America to be making them, so you're not going to see diacetyl as much, but it causes what's known as popcorn lungs. And this is basically an irreversible lung disease where you basically have horrible asthma. You can't catch your breath, you're wheezing, it's this awful mucousy cough, it's terrible, and it's irreversible. Now they call it popcorn lungs because in the popcorn making factories, diacetyl is the chemical that makes the butter flavoring in these popcorn. And in the factories, diacetyl was being released into the air, and the workers were inhaling it and coming out with this disease called popcorn lungs. So that's why it's called that. Now, these are all considered safe for eating. You're not going to die from eating the fun lollipops or baked goods that are in your house. I'm not saying you should eat your deodorant, but I mean, you could, and you probably wouldn't die from these liquids or chemicals. It's when they're inhaled into our lungs, that's when they're extremely dangerous. Now, also, they're finding that vitamin E acetate is another chemical that's in the vape pen. Vitamin E is a cream, it's in foundation, it's in my moisturizer. I probably wouldn't want to smoke it or inhale it into my lungs, but it's mostly used as an additive, which basically means when you go to, or if anyone is to go to a store to buy a vape pen and they say, I'd like one of the ones with marijuana in it, with any of the marijuana chemicals in it, they'll say, cool, here you go, here's your marijuana vape pen, excellent. Turns out what's in your vape pen instead of marijuana is actually vitamin E acetate. So basically what I'm saying is anyone who's buying those is getting ripped off because they're probably not actually getting marijuana. That's what's in the vape pen. Now, what's really important here? So although the flavor chemicals are safe to ingest, they've not been fully tested for the risks associated when smoked. So when they need to do a study, when any organization wants to do a study, they have to make sure that the study is ethical because it's going to be studied on humans so that they can see what the results are and what risks are associated with it in humans. But for vaping, they actually couldn't even get the patent to do the study because it's not ethical, because they knew that the risks were too high. The humans would be harmed in the study, so they couldn't even do the study. So because they're relatively new, we aren't fully aware of the long-term health effects of vaping on the body and the brain. So yes, they've been around since the 60s, but people your age haven't really been doing this for a long time. They've really been only around for about 5 or 6 years now. So we really don't know what the long-term health effects are. We know that the short-term health effects have been pretty negative. A lot of people have been in the hospital recently due to vaping. We know that there was one kid, he was 15. This was a couple of months ago. He'd been vaping for, I think, 2 months, every day for 2 months. I think he'd smoke 1 Juul pod a day, I believe. And one morning he woke up puking this green liquid. And he went to the hospital, and turns out he needed a double lung transplant. So for those of you who watch Grey's Anatomy, you know that's crazy. 2 lungs. But basically what it means is that they needed to replace both of his lungs because they no longer worked. They were so damaged from the vaping. So teens who have never smoked before are picking up vape pens and developing a nicotine addiction or respiratory related illness. So basically people who are your age who don't smoke any cigarettes at all are basically getting nicotine addictions or respiratory related illnesses that people who smoke cigarettes have. They say that 1 Juul pod is equivalent to 1 pack of cigarettes. So if you're smoking a Juul pod a day or a Juul pod a week, you may as well be smoking one pack of cigarettes a day. It's got the same effect on your body. So let's talk about phone, internet, social media. Are they addictive? So phones, internet, everything, they can be awesome. They can be so much fun. They can be a great way to connect with your friends, especially now. I mean, I connect with camp friends on Instagram who live in the States, who live in Israel. It's awesome. They can be a great way, especially right now when we can't talk to anybody, we can't see any of our friends. FaceTime can be awesome. It can be a great way to see if your friend got a new puppy and whatever. They can be great. However, they can be problematic. There are a number of reasons. One of these is FOMO, fear of missing out. Basically, if you're looking on your Insta story or your Snapchat story and you see somebody doing something fun that you want to be a part of, you could be feeling left out, and that could produce some negative feelings. Also, peer pressure is a really big one. I'm sure you guys have heard all about peer pressure from your family, your friends, your teachers, whatever. But peer pressure can be really negative. It could also be positive, it could also be neither. I mean, a really big example of peer pressure is TikTok. I felt peer pressured to get TikTok because I saw it all over Instagram. I thought, this thing is hilarious. These people are great. I'm going to add it and watch TikToks. I could spend hours on TikTok. That's peer pressure. Same with the TikTok dances. You see celebrities or famous TikTokers doing these dances and you think, I want to do that. And you do it too. On the flip side, a lot of people have been using TikTok to show how much they're drinking or smoking right now during the pandemic. And that could lead you to think, I want to do that. It looks like fun. And that can be incredibly negative. So another one is lack of accountability. There's a huge lack of accountability because it's so much easier to say through Facebook, through Instagram, Snapchat, texting something to somebody else than it is in person looking them in the eye. For example, it's really easy to say, hey, I like you over Instagram or over your DMs or over anything, Messenger, than it is to do it in person. On the flip side, it's also easier to say, hey, you're stupid or something mean or harmful or hateful over the internet than it is in person. So it can be really problematic. So I also want to talk about video games, whether or not they're addictive. Again, I'm on the fence. Video games can be awesome. They can be a great way to pass the time, connect with your friends online, especially right now. We're all bored. Nobody really knows what to do right now. Once you finish your homework, you're like, I don't know what to do. My brother's downstairs playing video games right now. They can be awesome. However, they can also be addictive. So, if I mentioned it before, if I did an addiction, really is where you find yourself prioritizing the thing that you're addicted to over everything else. You find yourself doing it the most. If you're not doing it, you're thinking about doing it. It's always on your mind. So, video games can negatively impact your life in a few ways. For example, your mental health, such as it can worsen your depression, anxiety. If somebody is playing video games and they're sitting in their room all day long in the dark playing their games, it can increase their depression. Also, like their physical health, such as weight. I mean, if I'm on the computer, I'm snacking. So if I'm on the computer all day, I'm snacking all day, and that can be really negative for your health. Same with your sight. I mean, sometimes I need to be on the computer all day for work. At the end of the day, my eyes are killing, and that can be really negative. It could also affect your connections with your friends and family. I mean, for example, I have a cousin who went to Laurier. He's home now because of this whole quarantine. But when he came home for the weekend, sometimes he would spend the entire weekend in his room playing video games, and he'd go back to school on Sunday. His parents would be like, is he still up there? Because we haven't heard from him all weekend. That could be really negative. Yes, right now, we're spending a lot of time at home with your families. You might need a break. Totally valid. However, I'm not saying stop playing video games, stop with social media, delete TikTok from your phone. It's so bad for you. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is keep playing, keep having a good time, keep doing whatever makes you happy. Just be more accountable. Be aware of, okay, I've been playing video games for 8 hours. Maybe I should go downstairs and see my family. Or maybe I should go and FaceTime one of my friends because I've been on TikTok for 2 hours and I have done nothing productive today. Just be accountable, be more aware of what you're doing on the internet, on your video games. Think about why you're on them, if you're on them to pass the time or if you're on them to do something negative. Just be accountable. So the last thing I want to talk about, which I think is really important right now of all times, is everyone's feelings in isolation because we're all in this right now and it's really important to talk about. So most of us have feelings of anxiety and depression during this time, even if we don't normally consider ourselves to be anxious or depressed people. So everybody's thinking, when is this going to be done? When am I going to get to go home and see my friends? When am I going to get to be able to go to school? When can I go to work? I'm tired of this. People could also be feeling more depressed, like lonely or isolated or anything like that. These are all totally normal. Everyone is feeling these things right now. However, there are things we can do to make ourselves feel a little bit better. So, what we can do is do things that make you happy. For example, play with your pets, FaceTime your friends' pets, hang out with your family, go for a walk, get some vitamin D, take a deep breath, and ultimately reach out for support. There is support everywhere. It's impossible to not find support. It's so important to do this. If you can Google mental health resources, mental health support, uh, I have clients texting me. I text back and forth with them when they're feeling a little anxious. We just chat about it over text. I am support. Other people at JACS, my organization, are support. Your teachers are support. There are counselors at your school, your parents, your family, your friends, your siblings, your dog, your cat. There is support out there for you. Like my little picture says, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's just a matter of what you do with those feelings, because we do not know how long we're going to be stuck in this. So why spend the rest of this entire time feeling terrible, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, feeling isolated and lonely when you could feel a little bit better? So that's the value in reaching out for support. It's really important. So they say that the opposite of addiction is actually connection. So what I want you to get out of this the most from my presentation is just stay connected to your friends, your family, your community, your teachers, whatever. Stay connected. It can help you bring positive emotions. It can help you feel better from your negative emotions, such as that could lead to addiction or depression or anxiety or any other mental illness. Try to stay connected. It can make you stay more positive. And that's my entire presentation. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being such a great audience. Your teacher is hopefully going to post my email or can direct any questions you might have to me. So reach out. We're here. We're available anytime you might need. Give us a call. And again, thank you so much.